Hello everyone, I'm Cam Harvey Pasinag from Best Ed Major in Science. I will going to discuss the first three modern art movements, which are the Impressionism, Post-impressionism, and Fauvism. So let's start with Impressionism. According to art historians, Impressionism was considered to be the start of when modern art begins. Impressionism was developed in France in the 19th century and is based on practice of painting out of doors and spontaneously on the spot rather than in a studio from sketches. Main Impressionist subjects were landscape and scene of everyday life. Impressionism was developed by Claude Monet and other Paris-based artists from the early 1860s, though the process of painting on the spot can be said to have been pioneered in Britain by John Constable in around 1813 to 17 through his desire to paint nature in a realistic way. Instead of painting in a studio, the Impressionists found that they could capture the momentary and transient effect of sunlight by working quickly in front of their subject in the open air or in plein air rather than in a studio. This resulted in a greater awareness of light and color and the shifting pattern of the natural scene. Brushed work became rapid and broken into separate dabs in order to render the fleeting quality of light. The first group exhibition was in Paris in 1874 and include the work of Monet, Auguste Renoir, Edgar Degas, and Paul Cézanne. The work shown was greeted with derision, with Monet's Impression Sunrise particularly singled out for ridicule and giving its name or used by critics as an insult to the movement. 7 further exhibitions were then held at intervals until 1886. Other core artists of Impressionism were Camille Pissarro and Berthe Morisot, with Edgar Degas and Edouard Manet, also often associated with the movement. Although originating in France, Impressionism had great influence overseas. Core British Impressionists include Walter Richard Seckert and Wilson Steer. So here are the examples of popular artwork in Impressionism movement. Next movement is the Post-impressionism. Post-impressionism is a term which describes the changes in Impressionism from about 1886, the date of last Impressionist group show in Paris. The term is usually confined to the 4 major figures who developed and extended Impressionism in a distinctly different direction: Paul Cézanne, Paul Gauguin, Georges Seurat, and Vincent van Gogh. Cézanne retained the fundamental doctrine of painting from nature but with added rigor, famously saying, "I want to redo Poussin from nature," or Poussin being a notoriously intellectual pioneer of French landscape. Seurat taught Impressionist painting of light and color on a scientific basis, or Neo-Impressionism, Divisionism. Gauguin retained intense light and color but rejected painting from nature and reintroduced imaginative subject matter, while Van Gogh painted from nature but developed highly personal use of color and brush work, directly expressing emotional response to subject and his inner work. Post-impressionism as a term was first used by British artist and art critic Roger Fry in 1910 when he organized the 1910 exhibition Manet and the Post-Impressionists. So here are some of the example artwork that became popular in Post-Impressionism. the third movement is the Fauvism. Fauvism is the name applied to the work produced by a group of artists which include Henri Matisse and André Derain from around 1905 to 1910, which is characterized by a strong color and first brushwork. The name Les Webes or Wild Beast was coined by a critic, Louis Bosselles, when he saw the work of Henri Matisse and André Derain in an exhibition, the Salon des Automnes in Paris in 1905. The painting Derain and Matisse exhibit were the result of a summer spent working together in Colère in south of France and were made using bold, non-naturalistic color often applied directly from the tube and wide loose dabs of paint. The form of the subject were also simplified, making their work appear quite abstract. Other like-minded artists associated with Fauvism include Georges Braque, Raoul Doffe, Georges Raoult, and Maurice de Vlaminck. We have also here the Fauvism and color theory. The Fauvists were interested in the scientific color theories developed in the 19th century, particularly those relating to complementary colors. Complementary colors are pairs of colors appears opposite each other on scientific models such as the color wheel, and when used side by side in a painting make each other look brighter. So, what inspired Fauvism and what happened to it? Fauvism can be seen as an extreme extension of the Post-impressionism of Van Gogh combined with the Neo-impressionism of Seurat. The influences of this earlier movement inspired Matisse and his followers to reject traditional three-dimensional space and instead use flat areas or patches of color to create a new pictorial space. Fauvism can also be seen as a form of expressionism, and it is use of brilliant color and spontaneous brushwork. It has often been compared to German Expressionism, which emerged at around the same time and was also inspired by the development of Post-impressionism. So, here are some of the known artwork movement of Fauvism.